And we're live.
Live and getting later and later.
Days are getting longer and longer.
I know.
So that's why, I guess.
Figure we'll give it a shot at 10 o'clock. So gives us enough time to actually get a little bit done in the gardens and stuff before we come in. We still manage. It doesn't matter what time we bump our live to. We still end up.
It's because the days keep getting longer. That's the problem. It's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, we push it a little further each time.
It won't be long, and they'll be getting shorter again.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we, like a week away from that?
Don't say stuff like that.
A week away from the longest day of the year.
Next, you'll be counting down to Christmas.
Well, it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
To Christmas.
To Christmas, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we're exactly. I'm just going to click on this for a second. Pop up. Oh, we're less than a week. Yeah, less than a week to the 21st. Pretty crazy.
Yes.
If you ask me.
And then almost. Well, no. I was going to say it's still 6 months till Christmas, but
yeah,
that's all right.
Everything happens quick. That's the problem.
You'd think the way the stores were this weekend that everybody was shopping for Christmas.
Wow, true. But,
we got out of lockdown this weekend, so everybody was shopping, us included. Not that we wanted to be, though.
No, we needed weed eater twine.
Yeah, we had to go get weed eater stuff. So, of course, that meant stopping at garden centers just in case. But nothing really there.
We did bring something home, but it wasn't anything crazy, was it? I don't remember.
Parsley. Because our parsley seeds are not growing again. We're not having any luck with parsley.
It's all right. Yeah, I don't know. It's basically days are getting longer. Gardens have to be planted.
Yes.
We've been working on fences.
Time just goes by, so we do apologize for a few missed lives. I can't wait. We're only like 26 people away from having a community board. 26 subs, sorry. I shouldn't say people, but 26 subs away from having a community board where we can at least say to people, we're not going to be doing a live tonight, or we're going to be doing a live this night because it's raining and we can't be outside, so why not?
Well, I think it'll be easier that way.
Oh, it'll be so great to be able to communicate a bit more that way. But
hello,
hi Megan, how are you doing?
Hopefully well.
Yes.
We said the title was "Is June almost over?" Or is June over yet? And June is the busiest month for us every year because everything seems to happen at once, and it's so time dependent.
Yes, yeah. It is. It's kind of one of those we get going and next thing you know, we're just like, is it actually 9 o'clock already? Oh my gosh. Got to keep going.
Yeah, that's why I said it for 10. But,
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. There's somebody on the other end of every channel and every subscriber. So, which is cool. It's amazing. I don't know. I always think it's amazing the different people that I don't know. We've met since starting this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just what we said. It's been absolutely awesome, really. All the different people we've met and connections we've made. I think it's been really good. So, and it'll keep growing and keep doing its thing, which is nice.
Well, that's not a terrible idea. Do the schedule live. Do the.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I never thought of that, to be honest with you. I know some people do like little short clips and say they're not going to do it.
Hey, Cindy, how are you doing? We're late today.
Oh, you've got a frost warning?
Oh, we're 9 tonight. We're supposed to feel like 7. So we kind of were a little bit worried about the sweet potatoes outside because they don't really like cold, but hopefully it'll be all right.
Fine at 9. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
We got all the sweet potatoes planted except for a few that we're going to do in buckets.
But that's frost warnings in June.
Do you have a lot of stuff out already, Cindy, or like was it a lot to have to cover? Or
I'm sure you're like us and you have a huge box of old sheets and everything. We keep it in the loft in the barn so we can just keep covering everything when we need to. Mostly in the fall for us because we still haven't gotten things out when frost comes. But yeah, we must have 30 old sheets and flannel blankets and curtains, tea towel, or tablecloths, all sorts. Sorry.
Anything. They're handy though. It's
yeah.
one of those. There's been lots of times we've had to cover stuff up.
Yeah.
But, we're hoping for us we don't get another frost.
Yeah, I don't think we're yeah, but
it's unlikely.
Cindy, you're zone 2B, am I right? I think yeah. I was going to say for Going Green Mom there. Yeah, she's northern Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Much more I don't know, what would you call that? Cold and
yeah, much shorter growing season.
Oh, she had them all washed and put away.
Yeah.
Get them all out again.
And then just bring them all out again and get them going. That's how it works. It's always when you think it's over, then they come back. It comes up again. But
as for the sweet potatoes, we basically kind of play it by ear, I guess. When if you know there's a frost coming, like basically when we get to end of September. For us, it's usually fairly safe till the end of September. They make it the odd frost, but
smart though putting them in containers for you because you're a little bit colder than us as well. So it just gives you a little longer because you always get those silly times in the fall where you get 1 or 2 days that are like frosted and then it gets beautiful for another like 2 weeks. So it's nice to have the containers to be able to bring them in and then be able to still put them out. The sweet potatoes, we ended up, because we threw the horse winter blankets over top of them last year.
Well, we got a pretty heavy frost.
Yeah. And then it got beautiful again after that. But we were glad we didn't.
Pretty much they still got a little bit toasted. The problem with them is if they get the frost, it basically causes them to rot all the way down into the tubers. So most plants aren't quite that bad, but you really have to be careful with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the trials and tribulations of gardening in Canada. well, I guess gardening in regions that get frost. Yeah. Although saying that, the ones that don't get frost get the crazy heat too. So
yeah, sometimes we get that.
It's really funny that we battle that. Like we're planning out where we're going to put our second and third successions of lettuce and things like that because they need to be where they're going to be in the shade because we've tried it before. And if they're in the sun, they just fry and we get nothing.
Or they bolt super quick.
Or bolts. Yeah. So, and we're getting seeds from all of our first batches. So we don't really want them to bolt and get more seeds. So
no, because the first batches of lettuce have done really well to be slow, which is nice. Mm-hmm. It's what you want if you're saving lettuce seed. The ones that took a long time to go to seed.
This year, I do have to say, we both said it. We are so pleased with the garden. I think it's been hard work for, and others work way harder than we do. So I'm not by any means trying to toot our own horn, but we've never had a garden as good as this year's garden.
And by this time of the year.
And we've never been able to go out and just pick salad after salad after salad. Like we've been really on the ball with getting all that stuff planted. So it's been so wonderful to just be able to go out and harvest.
We're going to do another round of the bok choy, the purple lady bok choy.
Yes.
We're quite liking that one. It's kind of pretty. It cooks well. We cooked some up in a stir fry the other day, and it was really good. Mm-hmm. And it tastes really good. So it's kind of a win-win, I guess.
Yeah, and we've just been able to pick out our leaves and keep harvesting. We're hoping that some stuff will still go to seed, even though we're doing that.
It might. So I can't remember. Bok choy is the one where I do the research, and some say it can go to seed the first year, and some say it's a biannual. So I don't really know. Mm-hmm. I have to do some more reading.
Yeah.
But everything's pretty much bolted. That's not good.
Well, are you dry? Same as what we are. It has just been so dry.
We've been lucky. Was it the last week? When did we have the rain? We had a day of rain.
I don't think it was a week ago. I think that was on Monday.
Was it Monday? Oh, was it just yesterday?
Oh no, wait, maybe not. You're right. Okay.
Or was it Friday? I don't remember.
So confused.
Recently, we did get a little bit of rain.
Then the cows have been out a lot longer than
they were out in the one thunderstorm.
When were you?
So we must have
late because that was Friday or Thursday.
I don't know. We had some rain. It doesn't matter when it was.
Anyways, we'll figure that out later off camera rather than. But anyways, it's all become a blur, as you can tell. We have no idea what day it is or what day things happened on. It's so ridiculous.
That's June. Yeah, the heat definitely. We noticed that because we got our stuff out, or some of our lettuce went out. I don't know. It did pretty well through the first round of heat. Then it cooled down, and then it warmed up again. And
all of our lettuce, except for my romaine, all of our lettuce is pretty much in shady spots, though.
I think one isn't.
Because the romaine is right out there.
In the open. But it seems to like it. But well, we used to do the direct seeding of the lettuce, but we're kind of really liking the starting it and then transplanting it. And I guess the big reason we're finding with that is you plant X number of seeds and you know exactly what you've got for plants. Whereas when we direct seed them, we sometimes find, especially not so much when it's early, but when it gets hotter and you're not getting a lot of rain, the germination's a lot more sporadic. So we end up feeling like we're wasting seeds, I guess. Yeah. So
and I hate thinning. I really hate thinning. So I find it much nicer to just grow. This is the first year we've done it, where we've actually started all the seeds first, even if they've only gotten like that just big enough to know that you've got the plant and it's started, then we put them out.
And you still sometimes lose the odd one, but we've been finding most transplant pretty well. Lettuce is pretty
most of the lettuce we've been putting out. Sorry, going on to a lettuce digression here. Most of the lettuce that we've been putting out, what I do is I put out, if we've gotten, what it sort of seems to be doing is we're planting sort of 12 seeds and we get 7 or 8 decent plants developed. So I put those out and then I still put a couple seeds in with them.
In between.
And then that just sort of, if they come up, they come up. If they don't, yeah. But then they're almost like a step behind the other ones. So you kind of have them growing in. Like that's what's happening with the prize head there, where I've got all 3 stages of lettuce. One's about to go to seed. And then anyways, they're all in the same bed together. It's just I've planted them at different times. And it's working really, really nice. So it's kind of, fun to experiment with this stuff because everything is actually going decently this year rather than
work.
And we've actually kind of kept the weeds under control. That's the other thing we like about the starting them. This is the one thing we are noticing. I'm jumping around this year in the garden, starting everything. We even started our corn ahead before we planted it out. And it was, I got to get both hands onto the camera. It was about 8 inches tall, the corn.
Most of it, yeah.
Most of it about 8 inches tall. But we were able to make sure there was no weeds at that point. So now nothing's getting weed suppressed because
it's like that extra.
It's gotten ahead of the weeds, which that's where we always fell apart before, was we planted everything direct right at the time. And then the weeds took over and you couldn't pull the weeds because I didn't want to damage plants. And I know that's probably an excuse, but
no, it does happen.
Yeah. So it's been really nice starting them ahead of time. And
for anything that will transplant.
Yeah.
If you've got the space and the time, it's kind of nice. But so you're a little bit better than we have been. You've got a little bit of rain sort of intermittently. That's good. It's it really has been an odd spring for us because we pretty much beginning of May was kind of like the last rain. And even April was pretty dry, and then it really didn't rain all May. And then we got into June and it still really hadn't rained. So
we got 2 rain, like in the last 5 days, we've gotten rain twice.
One was a bit heavier than the other.
Yeah, one was a thunderstorm overnight and a bit of rain.
Which is probably
that one that Wildwood Gardening got, Cassie.
Cassie's mentioning.
But then we had the one day where it just kind of spit and drizzled all day, which was very nice. I wouldn't, like when we planted some stuff yesterday in the garden, when we turned the soil, it was still pretty damp. Like we didn't turn it, we just loosened it for the sweet potatoes.
Digging the hole to put the sweet potato in.
And it was still pretty damp, which is good. And I mean damp like a foot down damp. So that's pretty good.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
For the lettuce, it usually takes about 2 weeks for them to get big enough to transplant out. Kind of at least.
Really depends on the lettuce, maybe.
Yeah, some grow a little faster, but
because I find the prize head and the black-seeded Simpson, the leafy lettuces are probably around that 2 to 3 week mark, and they'll be a nice little plant to put out.
Big enough to.
But our romaine, the butter crunch, and that one that we got, the freebie, take longer before you'd be transplanting them out.
They're definitely 3.
Yeah, they'd be a 3 week for sure.
Yeah.
Just to make sure they've got a good start.
And
but
we're not completely there yet. I think next year / even going into this fall, we'll be better at basically every week planting something, even if it's just a little bit. I got to bring it in. I set some seed trays out tonight to bring in the house to plant. We haven't got that far yet. But yeah, that's I think the trick to lettuce is, because I remember even both my grandparents, or my great grandmother and my one set of grandparents used to do it. They'd kind of plant a row of lettuce, and then you'd have all of it ready at once, and not that you couldn't eat it, but then there was kind of a all or nothing sort of thing, because they just didn't get into the succession very well. But oh, that's not good. Well, hopefully you can get out and do some between the rain. It's like that catch-22. The rain's good, but yeah, we feel the same way. Sometimes it's like, oh, why does it have to rain today? We were going to do X, Y, and Z, and but it just you can't really complain about it too much.
No, it's just one of those. It feels like a little bit of a delay, but
but yeah, it doesn't take much to realize, like, when you're gardening, basically when you're not fully mobile for whatever reason, how much it kind of, depending on how your setup is, it can really
how much
affect
you use your body to do stuff.
Yeah, gardening's a lot more what would you call that, physically intense than people probably would give it credit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And I still haven't bought my knee pads, and I'm going to break down this year and get one of those little squishy things to kneel on, because
you just need the ones that actually strap to your knees.
Strap to your knees, or the little rectangle, because that's what I'm finding this year.
Hello, Garden State Gardener.
Hey there.
That's not bad to get a storm, I guess. Well, I guess it depends how bad it was.
As long as it wasn't a damaging storm.
Yeah. Then it's not so bad. But we've been fortunate, even though we have had a thunderstorm, it wasn't much of one.
Like it wasn't heavy rain, like it just came down.
Yeah, it was just kind of, yes, there was thunder, but that was kind of about it.
We really need to get a rain gauge, because it's something that especially now that it doesn't seem to rain very much, it'd be nice to know what we're getting.
And sort of see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, it is. I mean, sorry, not good that after your appointment, things didn't last very long. But yeah, gardening definitely is a workout, whether you're, which is funny, because most people wouldn't class it as that, but you are physically appending.
Yeah,
how big
but I mean, it's like, I commented
Mm.
yesterday, or whatever day it was, that I was doing the digging in to loosen the soil, and I said I need one of those. What are they called?
Hi, Crucy.
What's the thing called that we need to get?
Oh, we need the long fork.
Long fork. Yes. That was it.
We need to get a long fork.
We decided we need to
or two
get a couple long forks, because doing the loosening the soil with the spade, I think that's killer on the body.
It works, but
not as well as what the long fork would. So
that's just it, though, right? It gets better as time goes.
Hey, Red in the Valley, how you doing? A practically neighbor.
We'll have to, when we're thinking about it, if you did want I don't know if you sent us an email or not. I didn't
see an email if you had, for the Kajari melon seeds.
Yes,
but if you do want them,
we did a
send
little
us
germination test, because the last time, I guess it was like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about it. Ours hadn't come up, so we did a germination test. They all sprouted, and the ones that we planted in the pots to go outside sprouted, and now they're outside. So
now we have lots of Kajari melons going.
Yes, they definitely want to grow, which is not a bad thing.
Sort of
long fork or a broad fork?
Or broad fork. Yes, I think you might be right. Oh, you're gonna make me Google this, aren't you?
And basically, they come with different number of tines, and they can be different lengths. And you put them in, and you just kind of it's almost like aerating. We should have to comment on our last video. Okay, we'll take a look at that. We probably just haven't.
Yeah, it's a broad fork. Sorry, not a long fork. Broad fork.
Yeah, and it goes down in, and then it loosens it up without sort of really disturbing your tilling it. And apparently, I have talked to people who've used them, and we've seen others that, you know, the more you use it, the better your soil gets, which makes sense.
Yeah,
because you're just aerating it down a little deeper. We'd like to try it anyways. Give it a try. We're kind of in a phase right now where we're big fans of hand tools to the point at which we might be trying to sell and get rid of our tractor.
Yeah.
But actually, I'll be right back. I can answer Kirsty's question.
Oh, okay. I won't answer it then. No. I was just about to, and then
the show and tell portion.
Oh, it's show and tell time. It's show and tell time.
So it made it quite well.
It did look a little bit sad at the time of arrival, but it has bounced back and sprouted tons in its dirt water bath.
So we haven't planted it yet.
So it's going out.
We wanted to kind of rejuvenate it a little bit, but yeah, it traveled really well. So which is
thank
awesome.
You very, very much.
It's doing awesome to add to. I'm going to put it back in the shelf so
yeah.
cats don't get into it. But
yeah, the horseradish, very excited about that. We've got a spot all picked out. We just wanted to make sure that they'd gotten soaked in a good restart before we chucked them out and then ended up in a drought.
Well, and that was actually really good too, because when we did the Canadian Seed Challenge, which is something we were going to talk a little bit about today, but when we did the seed exchange portion, we kind of didn't get into shipping plants or slips or that sort of thing, because at the time we were just like, we don't even know how to do that. And yeah, we basically now we know it works, so that kind of opens up a whole lot of other possibility for sort of future stuff. So thank you very much for sending those to us. We'll definitely do a video when we add them to the.
Can you get your cat? Oh, she just jumped on my back. Oh, wowzers!
But yeah, they definitely did well.
Okay, I'm going to. Sorry, I've got it up here. Give me 1 second. You have to excuse our kitten, who has now decided she is going to be a cat, and she's meowing in the background. I will send a thingy here. Hang on. Maybe if I can figure out how to get my thingy to work.
You got your.
I want, because Red in the Valley is going to put their. If you're comfortable with it, definitely that's fine by us. And I will send you an email right back, and then we'll be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
NBC. Okay, Red in the Valley email. Yes. Sure. So okay, put it there. Call you Cindy. Oh, another Cindy. I can remember this. We had Cindy Squirrel in here earlier too. So that's perfect. I'm terrible with names, just so everybody knows. I'm horrible with remembering names. Okay, so I've got Hickory Croft Farm up.
No, you definitely did good on the shipping that. That was awesome. And I think that's it would be nice to learn how to make some tools, definitely, because I don't know. We're looking into what's the name of the manual post auger, post hole digger auger, I guess it's called.
Sorry, I'm doing that. Are you talking to me? Okay, no, sorry.
I'm just talking. But we're looking into that, the manual auger, because our soil's decent, and we've watched a few videos on it in the past and whatnot, and now we just got to find one. But every time it's like this thing, like Wildwood Gardening said, every time we need to depend on the tractor, it doesn't work. It's probably our error, but if we can't figure out making it work every time it needs to work, then it's not very useful. And we've kind of plunged ahead with a few things without it lately, and we're under a little bit less pressure than we were last year, because last year we had to do fencing, and like it had to be done because we just moved and all that sort of stuff. So we're a little bit ahead, and it's feeling like maybe the hand tool route might be the better. which is not something that most people think, but we may give it a try.
Okay, Cindy, I tried to send you one back, so hopefully it'll come through. And then,
yep,
yes,
then you can.
If you want to,
I don't know if we can.
If you want to send me an email with your address, I will definitely mail you some Kajari melon seeds. Yes. You can just tell us how many you'd like to have, because we have lots. Well,
and there's still time to get them. Yeah, because they're I forget the time, but they're relatively quick. It's because they don't get.
Well, they sprouted. They sprouted in the bag. We did them in the Ziploc bag with the little piece of paper towel, and they were sprouting within, I think, 4 days. And did you throw them out in the end, or did you still have them up there? They grew leaves and everything in the bag. We meant to take them out and plant them, and then just got sidetracked, and I think they got too far. But that's okay, because I think we ended up with, wasn't there 16 or something out there? More than that.
Something like that. We got quite a few. They came up really well, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hay and straw. So straw is usually, not always, but usually the old stems of grains like wheat, barley, oats. It could really be any of them. Technically, it could be grass too, but it's kind of once the plant has gone past it's basically dried right out, right? It's gone to seed and it's no longer got a whole lot of nutrients in it. Mm-hmm. Hay is, to be kind of simple about it, sort of everything before that point. Like the best hay is
grass and everything right before it seeds.
Yeah. You get the highest nutrient value once you dry it.
Basically, hay. You will often, like from a gardening perspective anyways, a lot of people don't want to put hay on their garden because it usually still contains seed heads and stuff, where straw is what most people do.
It doesn't contain so much the grass seed heads. It's the other stuff that's in the hayfield. So
usually weeds like ragweed or...
yeah, that kind of stuff is usually gone. And it does depend too, whether it's first or second cut and all that other stuff. But oftentimes too, if you're buying hay for a cheap enough price to turn it into mulch, it's probably not good hay.
Yeah.
So
Cindy's kind of
it's
hit it down here with
straw is pretty much the only use other than gardening. I shouldn't say only use, but the big agricultural use was bedding.
Yeah.
At one point, there's lots of other uses for it, but it also works great for gardening, of course. Now we actually had 3 bales of hay last year that we are using as mulch because they are basically
straw.
Yeah. Whatever part of the field they came from was a different kind of grass. I'm not going to say it's completely weed free, so we are taking a bit of a chance there, but it came out as basically straw. Whereas everything else,
the animals were not going to eat it.
Yeah, and that was the first kind of hay. But it must have been I think it was a wetter area, so it was a totally different kind of grass. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it's
the one thing, this is something that we've not really delved too much down the line of, but when it comes to the hay or the straw, a lot of people now seem to be going towards using the hay on their garden, even though it may have seeds, because most hay producers don't spray their fields. Yeah, where so a lot of your straw comes from Roundup Ready,
well, it's not Roundup Ready,
whatever.
But it is. Yeah,
they're sprayed fields basically, which you're getting stuff on it, as opposed to hay fields, which usually, if you talk to your farmer, are organic.
Another thing you can use, although you have to be a little careful because sometimes it generates a bit of heat, is you can use grass clippings.
Yeah.
You may not want to use them super thick, or you may want to sort of gradually do it, because if your lawnmower has a bagger and you bag the whole, you fill the bag and you put like a pretty thick layer, it'll probably heat up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But if you shoot it out and let it dry, and then that's another option too. Yeah,
rake it up. It makes
you just have to be a little more careful with that heat, because yeah, it may generate a bit more heat that the plants might not
yeah.
like.
And one of the things we've kind of contemplated on is maybe actually saving some of our leaves.
Yeah, leaves work well too if you have access to them and you can collect some.
Like if you can bag them up and have them ready by the garden for the spring or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's and if you're doing more perennial stuff, that's an excellent way because it's kind of going into the permaculture stuff, right?
Doesn't work great right now because obviously there's not a bunch of leaves everywhere. But if you thinking ahead, hey, Pafford Homestead, how are you doing tonight?
Hopefully things are good down in your neck of the woods.
Yes.
You guys would be quite a bit ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's wood chips are also another excellent one. Hello, Miles.
Hey, Miles.
If you have them or can get them or can make them, they're probably, I would almost go and say wood chips are probably the best.
As long as you can do a good layer,
As long as you can get them, but they're going to be they're potentially the hardest one to get. There are ways to do that. Like, what is it, the chip drop?
Yeah, I know. We keep saying we're going to get signed up for the chip drop, but
we have to get that set up.
Thumbs up, Red in the Valley came through.
Excellent.
So we will drop some into the mail for you tomorrow.
We almost did that last year of just kind of driving around when people put their bags of leaves out. I mean, you're taking a little bit of a risk of what else is in with them, but they could have weeds, that sort of thing. But I would say that's pretty benign if you can get it, depending on where you are and whatnot. But it's kind of one of those things. There's a lot of different things you can use. We even use, it's not really mulch per se, but you can use like feed bags and stuff, depending what they're made out of, as weed barriers and stuff too.
Hey, Caitlin. Bafford saying about the hay there with the grass takes over, or we find it's the weeds. There always seems to be ragweed in them.
And I think that's the thing with hay. Straw, I'm going to say it this way, and it's not, all things are never created 100% equal, but straw, if you're getting straw, wheat straw, oat straw, whatever, you're always getting it at the end of that crop's life, right? So straw is not always the same quality everywhere in North America, but it's more or less going to be kind of the same because they chop it up after they harvest the grain portion.
Yeah.
But hay, depending on where you are, can be a whole lot of different things depending on what's the most common hay crops in your area. So like we were saying, for us, when we use hay, you tend to get a lot of the really weedy stuff you don't want. But like Pafford Homestead saying, in their area, it may be completely different, that they're getting all the pasture grasses, right? Yeah. Like it just, so I think the hay is a little more regional specific as to what might come along with it. And that's where it's like I said, with the 3 bales that we are using, still taking a risk, but when you open them up, like there's no small fine matter really in them.
No. Well, and I'd almost say they were like a wet area grass.
Yeah, I think so. Like
they're that
possibly
thicker, like that's the one I was thinking of.
We actually, I'm going to knock on wood, don't seem to have a lot of gypsy moths on the property. Now, we haven't gone back to the real far back part of the property, that sort of like an oak woodland. I imagine if there was any, that's probably where they are. However, in our area, there definitely
there's a lot of people with
places
issues.
that I've in a little bit of driving around, I've seen places that are completely defoliated. So yes, we are definitely in the midst of which just doesn't seem to be right here right now. So
well, and
we'll see.
Yeah, we've got a lot of birds that are taking them on too. So
yeah, we have like an overabundance,
ridiculous
overabundance, which is a good thing.
Caterpillar eating birds.
Yeah, gray catbirds, brown thrashers. Yeah, both the yellow-billed and black-billed cuckoos, and we even have a northern mockingbird, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so there's lots of birds eating them.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with hay. It's just knowing.
We did, and we used hay all around our raspberries.
Yeah, and they've actually done really well. And I've used hay. We used it around the 2 or the 3 little apple trees that we planted too, because we just kind of had some. And it was that same thing. It wasn't fantastic hay, so we're like, the animals aren't going to eat it. We'll just use it.
No, this is oat
yeah,
straw. Yeah,
I think oat straw is the same thing. When we can get it, it's definitely
What was the other one? We watched a video. Somebody was doing with the hemp straw or something like that. Or
you
it was
could
the little
if
hemp
you
pad things, which are supposed to be quite good too. Yeah.
But,
oh, door just shut on its own.
Yeah, so it is just that thing, like Pafford's saying. It just depends what farmers have in your area as far as the hay goes. And that's just it. That's something too, right? Like some hay fields are really, I'm not gonna say manicured, but really prepared, and other hay fields aren't. So, and that can run the gamut too, from something that's kind of a native grass hay field, depending on where you are, to some hay fields are pretty weedy. So I think that's the caveat with hay.
You don't know what you're gonna get.
Oh, with an oriental moth. I'm not sure if I've heard of that.
Cassie's got the tent caterpillars. A little bit. I've noticed on the apple trees that there is some on some of them,
but not
no
numbers
much.
of them. Now, was it 2 years ago? Before we moved.
The other place, there was it was crazy.
Eastern tent caterpillar.
Yeah,
I can't remember. There was like tons and tons of them.
But we haven't really known. Like, if I go back and look through the trees, it looks like they've been eaten by moths, or not moths, caterpillars. But I don't think they actually have. I think it's just because it's so dry. Some of the trees.
Well, we haven't gone right to the back either, but
so down in Miles's way, there's lots of the cottage country areas are talking about how bad they are too.
Like, well, I'm surprised. Like
areas.
even like I say, locally, there's patches. It's really weird, the distribution, because there's some areas where they've eaten everything. I've got a site that I go to for work that is that way. Actually, two sites that I go to work that they've pretty much eaten every oak leaf there is, and then you go to other locations and there isn't any. So they seem to be very patchy here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought with the straw as well. There, Garden State Gardener. It is a case of make sure you know where it's coming from so that you don't have the chemical stuff if anybody uses it.
Yeah, we haven't seen any actual tents either. We've seen the tent caterpillars, but we haven't seen the.
Thank you, MB. Yes, thumbs up, everyone. It's much appreciated.
Oh, that's not good. 18 bales.
Yeah.
Well, at least it is one of those things. There are other uses for it. This cat is annoying.
She just put it down and
it jumps on my lap. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, you can get two of them in the trunk of a car and tie the lid down. It's been done.
Well, I was going to say for smaller garden purposes, that might be okay. But hay is definitely we're kind of on the verge because we don't have hay equipment. We have an area that would probably make an excellent hay field, but it needs a lot of work before it would ever get to that point. So we do have to buy hay for the animals, and we're kind of on the verge of that happening here soon because the first cut hay has started to come down. So we'll but like you say, it's so big and bulky. You need the tractor trailer.
To move it. Well, and you don't want to have to do a bunch of little trips if you can help it. But
we're just I don't know. We just kind of we've got a bunch of sort of collaborations that we're participating in with people. So it was, we didn't really have a topic other than we've been crazy busy, which I think everybody has been.
Oh gosh,
haven't been super regular with doing the lives, and then we're still doing all the stuff that we said we would do, but we're just kind of on that temporary trying to. It's basically we're doing the normal stuff. We spent some time fencing for the cows, which was really good to have done because that's a huge thing off the list for the short term and long term, and it's working well. but we've got some projects like that we're trying to do, and then we're also trying to get the gardens planted. And this weekend we are going to have to prepare a second garden because we are slowly running out of space for
we're out of
vegetables.
space. We have a little 4 foot by 4 foot square in the ground garden, and then I think we have 2 partial squares in the raised bed, and then we have to build our last raised bed, and then that's it. We have to figure out, and we still have all of our potatoes to plant.
We know where they're going. We just have to do it.
And we still have onions to plant. We still have all of our Doe Hill peppers and our the black Hungarian peppers. Mm-hmm. And I still have all my Scotia tomatoes. They're like 2 feet tall, look amazing in the greenhouse, but they have to go out.
They're not quite that big.
They're growing through the thingy, the shelf above. Anyways,
that's a good idea too. But the hay, you might find somebody sort of semi-local that would deliver some.
Yeah.
But then definitely, you've just be careful. Like Red in the Valley saying, some people might charge you an arm and leg for it. It's I don't know. Hay prices have gone up, mm-hmm. and I understand why, but I don't know what they would be in kind of your area. To be honest with you, you'd have to do some. They vary. It varies a lot here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, straw. Your basic here, straw is $5 a bale. Hay right now is $6.50 for the first cut hay, but you'd really want to check your. We often see on Kijiji like people trying to clear out a loft of older hay, and they're doing it a lot cheaper. But as for how much they charge you to deliver it, I don't know.
Yeah, it really would depend. Okay, so this is interesting to learn about this oriental moth. I'll have to do some more reading on it. But that's good to know. I did know there was some moths that sort of targeted some of the soft stone fruits, but it's not good. I think you said you had quite a few of them around you.
Hey, Lori, and hi. I'm not sure whether to say 1, 2, or 12. You'll have to tell us whether it's 1, 2, or 12.
We do actually have people around here that do sell the small square bales, and for the most part, what we figure we can get, is it 500?
About 470 in the loft.
Yeah, so we're going to try to do that again this year. It actually works out.
We like it better than the round bales because we can't get the round bales up into the loft, and it's
and we don't have anywhere else to store them without tarping them.
Yeah. Well, and it is one of those things. For myself, I find it so much quicker because we wouldn't put out a round bale for them to eat off of. We would be taking the hay off the round bale and still taking it to the animal. That's just how we operate because we feel like we control wastage that way.
When we only have a few.
Yeah, because we only have a few animals, so it's not a big deal. But we just find, even though it's a little bit more expensive, it is more convenient to use the small squares. And we have 3 contacts that we basically are trying to kind of keep going with getting hay from. So it's kind of nice. We've got a varying because there's the one couple that's been doing it for years, and they're not going to do it forever. And then we've got a gentleman that's kind of mid-range our age, and then there's a younger couple that have just started on their farm and they're doing hay. So it's kind of nice to get from different sources and support local and still not be dependent on one person. Because especially, anybody who knows hay, it can be very, it works this season and it doesn't work next season or whatever.
And I will say too, there's still a lot of pasture and hay fields around, but a lot of the bigger farms have switched to the cash crops. Even though dairy farms don't tend to have a lot of pasture space or hay fields, which is a little bit crazy, but we have the lumber to finish the bed that we need to do.
Yeah.
So that's good. We just have to actually do it.
It's crazy. Because we have a couple chicken coops that we wanted to get finished in a pig barn, and we went to plywood. It was $98 a sheet. We said it's going to cost $2,000 just to put the plywood on the stinking thing.
Yeah.
Like, just crazy.
No, the big squares and the big rounds definitely. Well, it kind of goes back to it's that thing of So I'm saying you pretty much need the tractor or the bigger equipment, and we don't have a lot of luck with that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, we don't really think we're going to grow our cattle herd to the point that we would necessarily need it.
Yeah.
Like the tractor stuff. So I don't know. This is all kind of up in the air right now.
Well, and we did I'm assuming when you say the preservatives, you're meaning the rapte, which we did that for 2 years, 3 years actually. We fed the horses and everything rapte, and it was really nice. But it was just like you say, and we were lucky. It was the next door neighbor's dairy farm that they brought the hay and wrapped it right on our property. So we just took the tube off, and it was great. But we don't have that set up here, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. Smaller bales for smaller animals is nice.
Oh yeah.
This is actually something that, well, I toy with this a lot, but with on the livestock side of it, bigger is not necessarily always better. Bigger is better if you're trying to sell into a commodity type market, or you're doing it as a primary business. But if you're doing it on a homestead scale, I don't think it always is, because sometimes it comes with and that's a bit of a loaded topic, because there's lots of different ways you can go with that as to what constitutes bigger. But I don't know, that's just a general thought. Okay, so did the spraying help enough to? I guess, yeah. If you've got a lot of cherries and stuff around, this is kind of my.
Yeah, we'll have to. Well, we don't have fruit. Our stuff's not fruiting yet, so we're not seeing. Maybe. Well, mind you, it wouldn't be fruiting. It's just they're attracted to those trees, I guess. I wonder. I've not looked back at the choke cherry trees and stuff like that as to whether they'd be having stuff on them. I've only sort of looked at the apple trees.
Hello,
hey Nanya, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, that was quite the price.
It was just like, well, I guess that project's not happening. So how are we making this work now?
We've been lucky because there was quite a bit of basically lumber, but it's not good enough quality.
Yeah,
it sat around long enough that it's sort of partially rotten. You can't really use it for building, but it's excellent for raised beds and has tons of life in it for that. So yeah, like we did the blueberry bed. That way
it must have been an old. We're finding all sorts of treasure around here, thank goodness, because of the price of lumber. But it must have been an old barn shell, like there wasn't beams. Well, I guess they're beams. They were two, like, old cut lumber, 2-inch by 10-inch. And like you thought they was probably the proper.
They would have been really, really nice, but. Like we say,
they've been lying there for probably 20 years.
And they were basically on the ground.
Yeah.
So there's sections of them that are completely rotten. We kind of been cutting around those. But yeah, like I say, from a raised bed perspective, they're excellent. But yeah. Not too far behind. Well, that's interesting that it keeps coming up everywhere. I wonder if, because it will spread, but I also wonder if some of it may have been spreading around by seed, if it's been there that long. So yeah, it could come up everywhere.
But that's great, though, because you were hoping for it. Now you're overran with it.
Yeah, but
if it's not one thing, it's another.
Sometimes that is nice, because when you've got that much of it, you've got enough to dig up some and make it into stuff too, right? Without feeling bad that you're, going to kill your only little patch of plants or something like that. Yeah, that'll be something new for us too. We have some plums. They're too young to really have fruit yet. They flowered this year.
They flowered amazing, but no fruit on them.
No fruit yet, which is actually probably better, because they're not really too big. But we'll have to check out Nanya's video. I think MD was talking about it. Something to do with turkeys.
Yeah.
Are they? We haven't seen it. we're kind of in this mode that we haven't really watched a lot of people's videos, and it's just been time. Like I say, June is absolutely insane for us. So you got us for a little bit right now.
No, we will get back into the groove, but it's just been crazy.
But are they your domestic turkeys? I used to raise turkeys quite a few years ago, but liked them. But the problem was keeping them where you wanted them. Chrissy does horseradish and stuff. That's actually funny. That'll be your main thing, the horseradish farm.
There you go. Hey, could be done.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's like if I can just make it through June. I mean, really, we're literally at the halfway point, 15th, right? So we're halfway there. Yeah, and I think it is just that case. If you've got livestock, that's usually ramping up, or they're getting bigger or whatever. If you're doing gardens, that's huge. If you've got things like strawberries and you're starting to process and starting to in a bigger way. Like it's sort of like it's the convergence of everything.
Wow. Yeah. And you add that real work and everything else.
Well, yeah, a real normal job.
Yeah.
But bourbon reds, I used to raise Narragansetts, and I did like them, but like I say, I could never keep them where you wanted them, so they always they wanted to be up at the house or on the vehicles, and yeah, they were excellent at raising chicks and that sort of thing. But we found there was like none of the problems that people talk about with turkeys being fragile and all that sort of stuff. Like when they're raised by a hen, or a turkey hen, they're like indestructible. But yeah, it was just a case of you couldn't keep them where you wanted, and if you
every time when somebody drove in the yard, they were on their car, or truck, or yeah, it was like no turkeys, and not spending the money to make some fancy covered thing for them.
Well, it kind of defeated the purpose.
That's awesome.
That's good.
We did. We got our first
We've been harvesting some. Last year when we moved, we brought 2 kinds with us. Neither of them did fantastic. And then we bought a third kind. It didn't do fantastic. But this year, they're all producing pretty good.
I will admit I've nibbled some, but this is a terrible way to show you, but about halfway. What did I say it was? It was 2 pounds, or no, it wasn't.
350 grams.
Yeah.
In there. And that's like that's technically our third. Harvest. That's our first big one.
But it's there. We've kind of slowly been taking this. Each strawberry type has sort of a 4x4 foot bed. Kind of, except for my Wendy ones, which I brought them with me because they were my favorite strawberries ever. Only 2 of them survived the black pot winter. And so I put them into one of our blue barrel gardens last year.
Hi, Bettina.
And it spread. And this year I had 7 plants, which are producing fruit. Amazing for 7 plants.
And we formulated a plan. We're going to keep our three varieties.
Types.
And we're going to build. We haven't figured out the size. We know where they're going to go, but later this summer we're going to build 3 bigger raised beds and kind of move everything to those. And then next year build 3 more. Year after that build 3 more, so that we can get the succession going, because we know you can't grow them in the same spot year after year after year.
Well, and this is the first year that strawberries have actually done well for me ever. I mean, I've always had a couple strawberry plants or a little patch, and they've never done super well. So I think we're finally in the groove. So now we're going to roll with it and just expand, because isn't that what you're supposed to do? Put more work on the plate, go bigger.
Keep adding.
So we're going to convert more of the yard to garden. Less grass, more garden.
Yep. And the strawberries will be the center
because
point.
That's really a lot easier to look after.
It's more edible.
It's edible. That's right.
But yeah, you're definitely not the only one, Miles, who
oh yes,
thinks June is crazy.
Sorry.
You go first.
I was going to say, speaking of, now because you're speaking to Miles, Chris started the Canada crookneck squash in the pots ahead of time, and I guess we're going to be Canada crookneck. How many plants did you plant for your harvest from that video? I don't remember what you said
last year,
because somebody went a little OTT, I think. And what did you plant? There's got to be like 50.
I don't know if there's that many.
There's like 3 or 4 in each of those buckets.
3, I think. Times
12 times 2.
I can't even do the math on that.
Yeah, lots. I'm a little bit concerned as to where we're putting them, but they all came up, which is fantastic. And he only did 8 or 9 and he got like 70 pounds.
Oh, excellent. We're going to have like millions of pounds.
Please tell him that he needs to stop going crazy on how much we should be growing. Because we have about 50 at least plants.
No, we don't. I'll count them tomorrow.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot.
Yeah. Well,
there's at least 40.
Squash is
at
good.
least 40.
The squash is good. You can't have too much squash.
Well, those ones were delicious, so I'm quite fine with it, but I'm just a little bit concerned as to how much. He got 300 pounds from 9 plants. What are we going to do with 40 plants?
Eat them.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we'll see if all 40 plants make it. I don't think it's 40 plants. You keep upping the number.
No, I started with 50. No, it was 20
then
pots.
Then it was 30. Then it was 40. It's not 20 pots, though. I'm sure it's not. There's only 8 pots fit in.
Yeah, and you've got 2 things, so that's definitely 16 pots.
Yeah, times 3 is what?
Oh, God, don't put me on. 48. Thank you. 50 plants. 48 plants. Uh-oh. Thank you, Tiffany Q. We're in trouble, Miles, because he has planted 4 times as many plants as that. So what are we going to do with 1,000 pounds of Canada crookneck squash?
Eat them.
Oh my goodness.
We'll find a million ways to do it. I will say
he likes to jump in whole hog. Just go for it.
When you know you like something, you may.
What about all the other squash plants?
Well, there's not many of them. But there's a bunch. That's okay. How many yellow crookneck squash plants did you plant?
How many yellow crookneck?
Yeah.
There's 28, I think.
Yeah, and they're a summer squash. So who's talking about at least mine will store?
Mine will freeze just fine, thank you.
That's true. I'm going to go back up here to a couple of things. Bettina said you can't eat the grass, and
exactly.
I agree with Cassie as well. There, we're kind of like a 50-50 because we have the animals. Grass is good in some ways, but we don't like it in some areas. Although we've actually got another project going around the house because there is pasture grass in the house or like around the yard, Timothy and that sort of thing. So it's gotten so big, we're just going to leave it.
We sound so sad.
Well, no, we're going to leave it. Let it actually
go to seed, collect
the seed, and then we can spread that on some of the pastures that are closer to the house.
Yeah,
particularly the riding.
We should do a video on it and how successful it's going to be.
Well, we'll see how it goes. And that's awesome. You'll be ready for gardening
You'll be ready
tomorrow.
For gardening tomorrow morning, first thing. Too much squash. Roadside stand. Well, that's what we kind of thought. Sell some. Plus, we can save some for animal feed and that sort of thing. But
the one type of squash we have, I actually did plant extras because the animals do like it.
Yeah, but that was not that one.
Well, we didn't plant quite that many, but I'd be curious. They might like most of the animals don't like the butternut squash, but the Canada crookneck, I think, tastes better. So they might like it.
Mm.
And yeah, there is also that's definitely an option too. We'll see how it ends up in the end, because I think the likelihood of all those plants producing is
pretty good around here lately.
Well,
I brought those strawberries over and I've been looking at them in front of me. I'm going, I need to eat one.
Well, this is the nice part about winter squashes. Like we've done the same thing. We've had things like spaghetti squash and that aren't known for their
they've lasted for the
like
whole
a year
winter.
and a half. We've had them into almost the next fall.
Yeah, we didn't eat them.
Well,
they might have lasted, but when you opened them up, you're like, I ain't eating that. They might not have rotted, but you weren't going to eat it. We don't let each other get away with anything.
There definitely is like food banks and things that we can look into for that.
They're a little bit funny though. Like we haven't tried our local one since we moved here, but definitely a lot of them wouldn't. I don't know if they're not allowed to, but they wouldn't take produce and things like that unless it came from certain.
It depends. So I don't want to say rules, but yeah, it's something to look into. But see, Patina still has butternut squash from last year. Well, we know they last.
Oh, they do. Yes.
With good storage, they last quite well.
Yes. And if they don't, then they get canned up into something.
Or made into something.
Yeah.
Well, the nice part is that's one thing I do like about that the Canada crooked neck is you get such a long neck, you can do a lot of stuff with it.
It's very meaty. We're going to collaborate with Miles on a video since we haven't seen Miles do a video
in a while.
But we're going to collaborate on how much can we harvest of Canada crookneck.
That's a good point too. I mean, when you get to that point that some of it's gone.
Oh yeah.
When your storage stuff
you just ended up
whatever,
grinding it all up and giving it to the worms.
Not that that's the principal reason to grow it. But at least then if it gets to that point, it doesn't.
Oh, that's really neat, Cassie. Well, we'll have to look into the one here.
We just haven't really looked into it lately. Like last year, we really didn't have a lot. We had a lot, but we didn't really have a lot extra. It's similar. It's sweeter. Would you say? It does have a different taste.
It's definitely sweeter. If you want to be up, you've got to cuddle nicely.
Cat. I think the only reason, it's a predecessor of the more modern butternuts. It's just it doesn't gain favor because you can't ship it because it's got such a long neck and they break if they're not careful with it. But
yes, we're going to do videos on it. It's amazing. Miles has opened our eyes to it. Actually, Miles grows. I saw that Miles grows. That's where we kind of got it from. But after we got started on them, we realized that Living Traditions grows the Canada crookneck squash, and we watched their video on it, and they raved about it. And it was the only they grew that instead of the butternut now too. But they grew theirs. I can't remember if we already asked Miles about this. Miles, was yours on the ground or did you do it on trellis? Because I know.
No, it was on the ground.
Oh, okay. The Living Traditions grows theirs up a trellis, a cattle panel.
It would work. You'd probably have to make sure you supported some of them.
So horseradish is even hotter raw than it is when it's in a jar?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to try a piece, a little chunk.
No. No.
There you go. There's a new YouTube challenge, the horseradish challenge.
Yeah, I ain't participating in that one. I don't do well with spicy. So.
No, that would work. They'd come up, and you probably could make a.
I thought the Patina's one's funny too.
Yeah, how it dried out. It's funny how squash do that sometimes.
Yeah,
they go hard and just. We had the yellow crooked neck squash that we kept for seed. We had one that did that.
It was completely
there was
hollow
inside except the seeds,
and it was hard as rock. Like that one was, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that that was also its name. I know there's another one that's a relative, the same species. That's is it the cheese wheel pumpkin?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is another completely different shape, but the same species. Um, the term pumpkin squash, it's kind of all relative.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, there you. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Living traditions grow
definitely some. After trying the, because Miles gave us one to try eating, and then we saved some seeds out of it, and then he gave us some more seeds. But I would highly recommend it to anybody if you get the chance. And you like butternut, butternut squash. I would say that Canada crooked neck definitely falls into that category, something that you can grow yourself that's even that much better than what you can buy. Because there are some vegetables and even animals that they don't work well from a commercial perspective, but if you're doing the work yourself, they're
makes so much more sense.
They're that much better. Like it's not just the case of you grow it at home, you know where it was. It's better. It's like they actually have more flavor or those kind of things. I think sometimes people forget about those kind of things that fall into that category.
So you don't like spice, but the horseradish is okay. So it must just be a different kind of spicy.
Yeah, it's it's like mustard, right? Like even yellow mustard has got a bit of a spice to it.
The worst bit is now I'm tempted to try it. Although when I read the next line there from Percy, I'm like, if it makes my brain melt, maybe it's not such a good idea. But it's almost now I'm so intrigued. I'm like, I need to try it now.
You wouldn't like it. You don't like eating the horseradish the way it is.
Yeah.
But that's actually a good point about clearing your sinuses out.
Oh, you should try it.
Yeah, that would probably help me at times.
Yeah. I love butternut. Butternut was my favorite squash, and to be honest, I liked this one better.
Well, and we've grown the Waltham butternut, which is kind of like the standard butternut. We've grown that for quite a few years, and then always kind of toyed with the idea of making the switch or giving it a try, but never really did. And then after eating it, it's like, what were we missing?
So where's that one developed in Canada?
I did look this up.
Throw that one a mouse. Where was it developed in Canada? Quick, look it up for us.
I think it was pre-European settlement.
Oh, okay. So it's old.
I think so. There'd be some, like anything, there'd be slight changes over time, but I think it's been around for a very long time.
Spicy oregano. Well, I like the butternut for soup and stuff like that. I love butternut squash soup.
But you can use it exactly the same way. Yeah.
Hi, Drops. How you doing?
Hello. Okay, so it's okay. Because that's kind of what you were asking, like different kind. Yeah, it's a different. It's not the same thing that's causing the spice. There we go. It was the Iroquois.
Ah.
So there you go. So it has been around for a very long time.
Yes.
That's like the red cranberry beans that we grow. They're similar. They're a very old.
Well, and there's another bean that I'd like to try that's from. Remember when we were at Jana's and she was talking about the white bean from the what was the tribe?
That's from Desiranto.
Yeah.
Can't think of the name of that one.
Anyways, I'd like to get that one. We're going through this thing of kind of sort of trying to grow as much Canadian things as we can,
where it makes sense.
So it's kind of fun to try. Oh, that sounds really good.
Hello, Bomber Steve.
Hey there, how you doing?
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, the collecting Canadian vegetables and livestock and whatnot's kind of, it's not the main goal. The main goal is still growing food, but it's kind of it's a neat thing when you can. I mean, there isn't always an option that makes sense, but
see that's sorry, I'm going to Bomber Steve's for a minute with the cooey. That's what I say that we should call. I know it sounds, I don't know what it is actually meant, but anyways, my ex-mother-in-law from Britain used to say cooey when she was calling people. And I think that's how we should call the cows, because we need to come up with a way to call the cows that isn't, come on, girls, because that's what I use for the sheep and for everything else. So I say it and everybody starts coming. So I need something for calling the cows. And I said, cooey.
And I can't call the cows because I'm not loud enough. And it doesn't matter what I say, they don't hear me.
Anyways, it's just funny that he wrote that, because I just finished talking about using cooey for calling the cows.
I've actually grown the dragon tongue bean. That was quite a few years ago. I did like it. It was a really interesting color. I think it was just a case, like when I started with the beans, I kind of did a variety and did the classic homesteader thing of let's try a little bit of everything and then narrow it down. And there was a few of them that it was like orca beans.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
We'll jump ahead.
I'm jumping ahead. See, they use my cattlemen. So,
there you go.
That's what we should be doing. We should be calling the cows.
Well, you can go right ahead and do that in the field.
Well, nobody else would be confused by it because I don't use it for anything else. So, thank you, Bomber Steve. I'm ready. I'm gonna be cooing the cows. Cooey. I'm not even sure how to say that, but anyways. But I did try using the cooey, and I think it's good. I think they use it because it carries really well. It's a good sound carrying call.
Some that carry well.
Yeah.
But going back to the bean thing for a second. But yeah, I just kind of, we tried a bunch, and there was some where it's like, we didn't like the flavor of them or whatever, and so we just kind of narrowed it down. I think the dragon tongue we kind of got to a point where we still had a few too many, and it was kind of there was nothing wrong with it. We just liked a couple other ones better. But it was a really neat color, and I can't remember. I almost want to say when you ate the pod, it kept the pattern, but I don't quite remember that. I could be wrong. Yes, I definitely would say having, well, it doesn't, not Canadian, but having varieties of plants and animals that are like adapted for your environment, which if they, it's like our cows, they existed only here for a while, so they are very well adapted for it. It definitely goes a long way to helping, because they just do better than something that maybe isn't in sort of more and less endemic. Well, this is interesting about the. Is it lectins? I think that's how it's pronounced. I've never actually looked into this before.
Mm-hmm. We're both very fortunate, really, because we have no food issues, which you do get complacent about that and not really think about it, right? But
oh, there you go.
We need a video of the cooey. I need to train them first.
Yeah, I don't think they would respond right now.
So to attract attention, yeah. Oh, I'm learning. This is good.
Come here.
See?
There you go.
There we go. It's the perfect call for my cows.
There's another one that they use. Is it Combos? Is the one that sometimes people used to use here?
Maybe.
I can't remember exactly how they all say it so quickly you can't really hear
and then, to hear it over distances. Yeah.
Good night, Nanya. Thanks for coming in.
Yes. Thank you very much for popping in.
Catch you sooner than later.
With what would that be? Coco or cuckoo?
Yeah, Combos. That's the one. A lot of people. Yeah, because I've grown up in an area where people used to do that, and they come running.
All right, this sounds like a challenge.
You kind of confuse the cow.
No, let's see who can get the cows to come first. Is it going to be cooey by me or Combos by you? Who can get the cows first?
It won't be me because I can't yell loud enough that they'll hear me.
Oh, you're gonna pout now.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, because it would deter from. It's like the cyanide in apple trees and whatnot, and how that builds up over time.
See, 1, 2, or 12 votes cooey.
I meant to ask you what you said about you were fencing for your herd. I guess the question, herd of what?
Mm-hmm. Have a good night, Miles. Thanks for coming in.
Yes, thank you very much. We probably won't stay on forever, but we're still chatting a bit. So, avoid lectins, red kidney beans, soybeans, wheat, peanut, potatoes, and tomatoes. That's interesting.
It is, yeah. Have a good night, Cassie.
Quite a range.
Thank you very much for popping in.
Yes, thank you.
They've got Dexter cows.
Oh, very nice.
That was our second choice. Well, it was almost our first choice until we found out we could actually get the linebacks.
Yeah, the Dexters really kind of were the first choice, and then it's just that case of the linebacks being kind of native to literally right here. We kind of fell into that. Still got to figure out making it work, but
sorry, I was going back to Megan's one there. So our two girls can't figure out who is the lead cow. I think it's probably going to be Danny because Dorothy is the smarter, calmer of the two, but Danny plunges ahead. So I'm pretty sure she would. But then if it's a case that Danny doesn't think she should go or can't go, Dorothy goes first. So I'm not sure which one would then become the lead cow. Bucket definitely works, but then you have to be faster than the cow.
Well, you've got the same problem with our two because Dorothy, Bucket works no problem. She's quite respectful. Danny is like a bull in a china shop. We're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
She's built. They're kind of two different body builds, and I think that has a big thing to do with
it. I moo at the cows by my desk. That's awesome.
That's funny.
So far, we're using Bucky to kind of move the cows. If I go and catch Bucky and lead him, the cows follow. If I don't want the cows to go a certain way, I use Bucky to keep them where they are as the block. He
doesn't actually do anything.
He just stands there, but they don't pass Bucky. So are you using the Dexters? Are you just for beef, or are you hoping to milk them? That was one of our things when we looked into them. We wanted them for milking as well as beef, and there was such mixed reviews on it.
In our area, let's put it that way. It seems like most people go down the beef side of it and don't do a whole lot else with them. And we did talk to a couple people. Which is fine,
but it was just not what
we were kind of hoping for more dual purpose as we bought a dairy cow too, but
yeah.
Yeah, we're liking the cows too. I think they were a big plunge in for us going from goats.
And they're a huge up and down for us because we're very like, what are we doing? Should we be doing this? Do we keep them? Do we get rid of them? Oh my gosh, the cows.
No, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier about the hand tool stuff, because the sheep, for example, and not to sound whatever, but the sheep are small enough that you physically can do everything. You can, as long as you can catch them in a pen, you can catch them, you can make them go a direction if you absolutely have to. You don't want it to happen, but if something dies somewhere on you, it's small enough you can physically move it. Like there's a lot of, you can do everything, but you can't do that with cows without equipment, and that's where the hesitation comes in.
Yeah.
Is you are kind of that, and you can't be really quote unquote self-sufficient with it because you can't have enough cows unless you have a lot of cows to not.
And there's way too many cows in our neighborhood to have a lot of cows. We learned this week.
And nothing to do with our cows.
No, nothing to do with our cows, but further neighbor's bull somehow managed to get out and get to our neighbor's bull, and yeah. So anyway,
it didn't quite get there.
No, it was dealt with, but too close for comfort.
Okay, you're in the Kootenays. We're in Ontario, actually, so just kind of east of Lake Ontario. So not pretty far south in Ontario, but there are quite a few Dexters here. But like I say, most people seem to have them for the beef side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll have to look into some of this stuff. I've been kind of following the conversation here because it's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a jump way ahead. And I'm behind big time.
No, you're not that bad. Not that bad. I'm kind of following on mine a little bit, so.
Okay, so you're going to try the, that's awesome.
Well, that would be interesting to hear what you think of it. There was just mixed reviews. Some people loved them, some people didn't from the milking perspective. And that's where we kind of were like, well, you know, there's a gentleman that we watch. What's his channel called that has the Dexters? 1-2 probably watches it.
You have to look it up. I can't think of it. But his videos are quite good about them.
Mm-hmm. And we like the fact that he had the 2 bulls. Oh, goodness gracious. Just a few acres farm.
Yeah, he's in New York State.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so you've got other ones in there. The cow thing's interesting because, like we say, it was kind of a bit of a learning curve going from having a goat herd to Pete from just a few acres.
Yeah, we watched a lot of his
videos on them.
Yeah.
Well, and also kind of doing cattle on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Yeah.
Dexter's, yes, but you can go more.
He does
apply
other
it
stuff
to more too than just
Dexter's. and he's got the other stuff with that too, running it all together kind of thing. But he was very informative and really kind of we learned a lot from him before we got into the cows.
Somebody doing it in a smaller way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think cows get a bad rap sometimes for a variety of reasons, but at the same time they are big.
Mm-hmm.
Even Dexters are bigger than most livestock, or like most of the smaller stuff. But you're a horse person, so.
Well, yeah, but then like we've said, I mean, it's really nice to have a horse when you have the cows because they do respect the horse a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but you've always got to get another bull. That's the downside.
Yeah. This is where we're finding, especially with the linebacks, keeping going with getting new bulls and things like that is going to be our challenge.
It's that numbers game, right? You can keep enough sheep to have enough diversity.
Well, we keep 3 rams, so you basically can.
It's not that you don't have to buy them every now and then, but
yeah,
you're always with cows. You're always dependent on other people, which is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
unless you've got like what Drops is saying, huge cattle ranch where you can have multiple bulls and multiple 1,000-acre pastures and not have to worry about it. But for us, with our smaller, amount of land, realistically, we've said the most we could have is 6.
Well, I plus think. 6 adult ones.
Yeah.
Good night, Red in the Valley.
Yes.
Thanks for coming in.
And
we'll get that sorted out with sending those.
I'll send you a note once I've got them in the post for you.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing we said. It's one of those. I missed something. Drop said they'll never miss a cow. What was that?
From the farms around.
Oh yeah. Okay, now I get it.
That's funny.
But yeah, it is one of those things. As long as you like, this is what we said with our 2 girls. I mean, if you go, our big thing is we don't want to keep a bull for a long time. We're not set up to have we'd like to get a bull, use it, and lose it and get a new one.
Potentially.
So that we're constantly butchering that animal to be our meat product and never having to deal with an older bull that could get problematic. That's all.
Or that's one potential way to do it.
Saying that, you never know. Once you get a good bull, you might hang on to it as long as you can. But our big issue is just that.
Well, we've had some never bad experiences, but we've had some stuff with the rams that even ones that start out good, you might get them to about 2.5. And then usually at that point they do start
it's just
to become
there's a trigger. They turn. Yeah.
And after having that a few times with Icelandic rams, it's like bull's a lot bigger. It goes back to the end of the day, I can still outpower the ram.
Well, yeah.
I can't outpower the bull. So
no. But then you also can't outpower a heifer either.
No, we can't outpower a cow, period. Well, the artificial insemination thing for the linebacks, it's not available because of some regulations that basically only allow it to be used on the farm it was collected from, which is not super useful.
Yeah.
It's
because there isn't a registration for it and stuff yet. They haven't gone through all that.
AI is not always as simple as it sometimes is portrayed to be. It does work, and it's definitely a good tool, but it's this catch-22. I'm leery of relying on that, even though I know lots of dairy farms do. But
sorry,
you also don't hear about the number of times that it doesn't work, or they don't catch, or that sort of thing. Actually, there's a big channel, Homesteady. They have kind of talked about that with their cattle herd. Now they only have 3 cows, and I don't know exactly how much money they've spent on it trying to do what they're trying to do, but it's just all stuff. It's all food for thought. And right now, for us, we don't know what the best answer is. We like the cows. We'd like to make it work, but that's kind of
right
interesting.
Now they're just glorified pets.
Well, yeah, ours are just pets at the moment too.
Pets that one day will have a purpose, but for now, they're pets and they're enjoyable.
Well, so this is actually a really good point, Growing Green Mom, because a lot of people have talked about that, and this is something I want to do a video on this. So I may not go too far into it, but I'm going to call it this: put and take agriculture. Like, it's the notion of like, how sustainable do you want to be, right? It's like chickens, for example. When you raise broilers, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not really sustainable because you have to purchase them all the time. And the raising the steers, or we're the same with the pigs. This is why we went with the Kuni pigs, because the Kuni pigs are something we can actually keep breeding stock and not be poor. not run ourselves into immense debt trying to feed it, which all the other breeds of pigs, or all the other just even crossbred large pigs, you can't do that. And the economics are very, very, very tight as to, at least where we are, between getting things butchered and all the other stuff about, making a return on the investment, so to speak, given how much food you've got to feed them. Mm-hmm. So we've definitely thought about that with the cattle too, but we're not perfect, but we try to avoid the put and take if we can. I may not get too far into that right now because it is almost 11:30, but that's kind of where that comes from. But realistically, there's nothing wrong with raising out a steer or 2 steers. It's that same thing as like wiener pigs. Raise 4 wiener pigs, put 2 in your freezer, sell the other 2. Hypothetically, minus potentially the butcher issue that we have right now, it pays for itself. But we like the Icelandics too. We just did a video actually on
why we raise them.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just so good. They're so multi-purpose. I mean, we're even to the point of debating on trying to milk them. But we haven't gone down that hole yet.
Yeah.
It could happen.
I do know it's crazy with the cattle stations that you've got, bombers, like in Australia, Bomber Steve, that some of them are massive.
Wow. Like, that's huge.
It's pretty crazy.
How do you even find them?
Oh, well, you got to go out and look for them.
Yeah.
But that's no different than here. I mean, some of the
community pastures and
stuff, some of the provincial and federal land that they graze on, mm-hmm. It's the same thing. They're just kind of out. You own the cow, but the cow is just out.
That's something that we have looked into and actually discussed with people and whatnot. It just hasn't.
The big thing on that, this is also where it goes down that line. To just do that with a cow is a cow is a cow, not probably too hard. Like our neighbor,
or a common breed of cow.
But our neighbor has he's got a
and
bull,
he's offered to loan us his bull all the time.
And he's a Hereford. He probably would be pretty compatible. You'd get calves, but our thing, it's kind of like the vegetable thing, right? If you're trying to keep them, you're keeping the breed of cow or sheep, or it doesn't matter what the animal is. You're keeping it pure because of the production qualities, or at least that's how we look at it. It's not so much. Some people might like. Sometimes chickens get this way, where there's lots of fancy chickens that aren't very practical. Nothing wrong with that, but for the breeds that we keep, they all have a practical quality that we'd like to keep, and that's where it gets hard, because you could just cross them out. I mean, cows are cows are cows, but yeah, that's where it gets more complicated too. Yeah, the blondes. It really just depends.
Yeah. Like the AI, it's like Daisy, for example, with the Jersey, we can do Jersey AI, no problem. We could have a vet come in and do that without having to get a bull. Also, though, Jersey bulls are very easy to come by, and you can use it, get one, and then butcher it later.
For example, we've even talked about for Daisy buying a younger Jersey bull, asking the farm selling them, because they're always selling them if they can register it, even though that's going to be more expensive than just a bottle calf.
Yeah.
Keep it for the one breeding and then eat him.
Yeah.
Essentially. And you could repeat that indefinitely. Like we just haven't figured out what's going to work best for us here, I guess is yeah.
The cows are still a full-on experiment for us.
A big experiment.
A big, expensive experiment.
we are seriously thinking of milking some.
Yeah, and this is the first year we've really contemplated it, and we started looking at the udder on some of them, and I definitely think you could milk a few of them. Sorry. It's almost my bedtime.
Well, I definitely think that's a good point. I think it kind of depends a little bit, though. Like in the case of the linebacks, for example, they're so rare that most of the diversity is kind of in the cows. There's kind of there's so many different thoughts on how to go about what's the proper way to do some of this breeding stuff, but like we do this with the chickens, for example, and I know that's smaller, that's a quicker turnaround, but we don't keep most of the roosters for very long, because we've got enough diversity in the hens that if you're always bumping to the next, that's clan mating, but bumping to the next clan, you end up with a flock of hens who are extremely diverse, and you kind of always have the option to pull roosters from. And I know with the cattle, it's kind of the economics is kind of set up the other way, that the bull's the high ticket item, right? Because like you say, if he's considered a good bull, whether that's just based on pedigree or performance or whatever, because it depends on the breed, they're worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know. It gets into some bigger questions about sustainability with livestock, basically.
Yeah.
When a cow is not just a cow, is not just a cow kind of thing. It's like, this is the problem with the linebacks. Unless we cross them to another cow, it's not legal right now.
Yeah.
So, and this has to do with, this is a whole other discussion, which we want to have at some point. And this is why we got out of the goats, partially, not completely, but once you get into big livestock, it really depends on the goals of whatever breed association you're working with. Otherwise, if they're not registered or whatever, it doesn't matter so much. But if you're keeping the registered stock, you've got to align yourself. You've got to be in line with whatever the group is doing, I guess.
What they're encouraging or
and
promoting.
how they're choosing to operate. And essentially right now, just the way the laws are, the linebacks, the semen can't be used on cattle on any other property other than the property that it was collected from. So if we own the bull and we get his
I suppose the plus to that is that in 20 years time, if you keep bumping the genetics, you could use your own stored.
But well, and that's again going into diversification.
Yeah. Yeah, the horse thing, I think that's a lot of people around here have horses, and we often wonder why. Well, I guess we're no different, really. It's just they're there. That's something that you just have.
Well, I think horses are mostly become kind of pets for most people. I mean, Bucky's rideable, but
but mostly he's just there.
He's just there. But at the same time, he's so old, he's not going anywhere. No, that's pretty awesome. That's awesome. And it's definitely something that we've thought about, and this is the other part of the experiment. We really like the practical qualities of the linebacks. We like the size. This kind of goes back to that bigger being better.
Have a good night, Tiffany.
Good night. We like the size of them, etc. But it is that case of it still has to work, and this is where we've broken it down in conversation after conversation after conversation. There's different ways to look at the cattle experiment. One is to do if you just want beef, just raise a couple steers. You can get them probably at a decent price. For us, having a beef herd doesn't make a lot of sense given the price of even unregistered crossbred beef cattle right now in our area. It isn't worth it. That's just what it sits right now. So a strictly beef herd is kind of out of the question for us. We want the milk, so we want a breed that will milk, but at the same time, we want a breed that will still be able to go out on pasture and do that without. So the only concern with the Jersey is how productive is it going to be. So anyways, it just gets into this thing of there's different ways we could run it. Like we could just have, 2 Jersey cows, and we could do the AI. That would be more milk than we'd ever need. We'd probably still have to look at getting bottle calves, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's an option.
Well, as we go around in circles on it, it just feels like the cows is going to be that one thing that realistically we can't be self-sustainable with, and that is just what it is, really. But it's figuring out which avenue to go down. I mean, everything else on the farm, we can figure out ways to make self-sustaining. What's the proper way to word it?
Going Green Mom's got a great point here about the semen storage.
Like it's still
I think this is the thing about cows. And cows have almost never. How do I put this? A lot of homesteaders look at it, and I do think sometimes this is, I shouldn't even say a lot, but it does come up sometimes portrayed that sustainable means you can do everything yourself. I don't think that's completely realistic, because most of human history, you can never do everything yourself.
No, your neighbors did.
And when you get into cattle and horses and the bigger livestock, nobody did it themselves. You may have had people that were wealthier who, quote unquote, did it themselves because they had the whole herd of something or whatever, but they really didn't. It was totally reliant on other people, and I think that's the one point. I think you can't be, quote unquote, self-sufficient with cattle because you're always going to be dependent on somebody else, which is what the point about the politics kind of goes into it, because, and this is why we got it, to be honest, this is part of why we got into the goats, because we had to make a choice: either stop registering them and kind of drift away from where the breed association was going with it, or not have them anymore, because it wasn't going in the same direction of a homestead type thing. It was more of how can we make this into a bigger agricultural endeavor. I'm going to leave it at that, but and go back to the chat here. Yep, you're 100% right on that. One bull.
Yeah, for this is like what we said with Danny and Dorothy. I mean, if you can get 15 years, for 15 years, you could have, as long as you have the bull that you trust or somewhere to put them, and or AI, but then you're dependent on the vet and everything, on a lot of other happenings for that. But there's certainly ways to do it, and it's no different than you could just take a.
It's very different from chickens. Chickens, for example, you can actually, and this is why I think a lot of the smaller animals, you see it where a couple people in some cases have kept an entire breed going, because you can have
enough
multiple roosters, you can have multiple hens, you can have enough genetics to keep it going without bringing anything in for a very, very long time, because you can have a lot of them.
Well, this is like my rabbits.
Yeah, same thing, right?
Like I've not bought a rabbit in, I don't know, 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Hence the reason there was guilds, because these things were, well, and this is the other thing with when you look at cattle breeds too, look at a lot of them are very like locally developed, right? They're associated with certain towns or valleys or certain regions. It's like everybody in those regions.
Hey, Backwoods Bourbon.
Had them.
Hope you're doing good tonight.
Which is very different from now, where you can kind of get stuff from all over. Mm-hmm. It's an excellent thing, and it's a negative thing at the exact same time. The ability to have unlimited diversity to choose from as far as breeds and whatnot. And that's not just cows. I kind of feel that's everything. But yes, but you still have to have some. If you're separating, you still have to have some somewhere to separate him or the calves. Oh, that's kind of funny. Oh. Anyways, this is it's an interesting thing to think about. There's been lots of really good points, and we're bad because this is not something that we've really discussed at great length. We kind of just
coast along.
We've got cows, and it's kind of been on the back burner because it's not something that, I mean, it's a really long-term project, basically.
Yeah.
And we're with the cows, we are in that, like you said, 100% the experiment phase of how to make this work. We figured it out with the sheep, but we're what, 6 years in now? 7 years in?
Almost 7 years, yeah.
Yeah. So we know what we need to do. We know kind of an optimal size it's going to work for us for as far as numbers, and we know where to find more. And anyways, we have a lot. I'm not saying we have it all figured out, but we have it a lot more figured out. And we just don't have that figured out with the cows. And so the potential for, we call it economic repercussions, depending on which way you choose it, is potentially greater with the cows than the sheep.
Yeah.
So it's just things that
the cows just aren't as forgiving, so we just want to make sure we're making the right plan.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So watch this space; it'll be coming eventually. But
this is actually a good one from Backwoods, the line breeding and inbreeding. It really, this is me from a biology background. It's the same thing no matter what the animal is. I'm going to stick to animals because plants are a little different. It's always the same principles. My personal opinion is it's all to do, the inbreeding isn't necessarily a negative and it isn't necessarily a positive. It just kind of is. It's one method of breeding, but it can magnify positive traits quicker, and it can also magnify negative traits quicker, and it's the magnifying negative traits quicker that's really led to the negative connotations around inbreeding. And line breeding essentially is a form. It is a form of inbreeding, but it's not. Inbreeding is all relative to how close you're inbreeding. Let's kind of put it that way. So there's overlap there, and there's a lot of variation in that, and that's why I said with our poultry we do the clan mating, which you keep the hens kind of as a clan or group, and you're moving the roosters. And if you've got the more clans of hens you have, the essentially the further related your roosters will be, right? If you've got four clans, and you take a rooster produced in this clan and move him to here, and then a rooster from this one and move him to here the next year, and here the next year, you're always 4 generations
before he's back out to the original.
So you actually end up with quite a bit of genetic diversity. Sometimes, really, in a way, it's still kind of a form of line breeding, but very diverged. It gets into a lot of semantics, basically, and that's where a lot of people get lost in it. Because
basically, we go a step further than what a lot of homesteads do with our poultry, because he's talking about poultry sort of with the birds, in the sense that when we breed our birds, we double tag. So their right leg is their maternal line, and their left leg is their paternal line. And it ends up being that when we move a rooster over, we make sure that neither of his 2 bands match up with the hens bands. So we try and kind of work it that way. But then you get, if you save hens from one year, those hens have a different rooster band than their.
So you can actually have more mixing.
So, but basically where I'm going with it is we treat the poultry a little bit more like the same way we do with bunnies, where we have a pedigree, and the bigger animals. Like, we actually have our poultry all labeled in such a way that we can make sure that the chicks' grandparents are all different, which is kind of in it's
we're not as organized as pedigrees, but
yeah.
Now, this is another good point too, and I'm going to interject a bit of my opinion, again coming from the biology background, but there is definitely, it's like rabbits, there's definitely a notion that the line breeding and the negative attributes are less important with smaller animals. I would argue it's not necessarily true. It's you have less losses. It's less detrimental, and I think it's totally a numbers game. A cow has 1 calf every year after it's 2 for, let's say 10 years. Let's just make it simple, right? Some breeds can go longer, some actually don't last that long. That's in the cow's lifetime, that's a maximum of 10 calves. A chicken has a whole clutch, or a rabbit has a whole litter, right? So sometimes you don't even see the negative when you could have lethal genes, or you could have you do get deformities in birds that pop up from time to time. It could be because of inbreeding, it could be whatever, but you can essentially, if you are inbreeding, you can apply way heavier selection to birds.
Yeah.
Especially if you do it with incubators, right? If you hatch, the more birds you hatch, the more selection pressure you can put. So if you wanted to breed, I'm just going extreme, not even suggesting this, but brother to sister, and you put hundreds of eggs in the incubators, hypothetically, you are still going to end up with good birds that physically you can see nothing wrong with them, and they develop fine. Are you going to have issues? Probably, but
because you have so many, you can call
in the grand scheme of things,
fast.
It doesn't matter because you've applied a crazy amount of selection. But the cow or horse or big animal like that, it's a bigger issue, which is why those are the things that people started tracking. They're long-term investments, right?
So you can't just cull out if that cow only has 10 calves in her life, you can't just cull out 8 of them.
Not unless you have unlimited resources.
Yeah.
And that's usually what it comes back to, right? So I don't know. It's a bunch of different things kind of coming together, but
we do find it with the poultry. I mean, the inbreeding is not a huge issue if it happens. I've had it happen with the bunnies. I didn't get them separated quickly enough, and brother and sister are in the hutch together, and next thing you know, there's babies, and they've been fine. But then we've had other, where it's just like, nope, that's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Grops has a good point. It's like it's all record keeping, and 1-2 had the point about, like, if you just have a couple of animals, you'll get what you need, but it's also that longer term, right? And this is where it sounds bad, but sometimes we get a little caught up in the what's beneficial for the animal too.
Because that comes from because we raise mostly rare heritage breeds, and you want to be.
But it doesn't really matter, right? Because at the end of the day, the animal.
All animals are important.
Well, they are, because it's kind of the animal is important, because if you don't make sure that there's more of them, then someday there won't be, and then you're kind of starting over again, right? Not in our lifetime. You may not in your lifetime, but yeah, that's how breeds disappear. And if there's good practical production qualities that maybe are useful, I mean, that's one of the big reasons to raise rare or heritage livestock. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a really big conversation.
Yes.
That most people, it doesn't need to be so complicated. We're making it complicated, but
that's quite a funny story there, Crucy.
This is where cows are funny, though. They're I don't know. They're different. They're enjoyable to have. I think that's one thing people, if they're not around them, well, it's any livestock, but if you're not around them, it's very easy to just be like, oh, dumb cow. It's just burger, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I don't know, there's not a lot of, there's differences, but they're just as interactive in the right circumstances as a horse or whatever else. Yeah. Different, but, and chickens are the same. And like, they all have that side to them in the right circumstance. But yeah, exactly. They can have big personalities. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like when you're talking like ranch style cattle that really don't ever see people, for all intents and purposes, that cow is wild. It's amazing that some of them are as calm and whatnot as they are. Yeah. But that's the flip side. But I guess.
No, it's such a true point. It is. Like, I mean, people think, oh, look at it's kind of no different than the little, what's the tiny goose or the whatever, it's a little different than the group, and it's just always cute, but really it's detrimental.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. It's all relative, but yeah. It's just things to think about. Yeah, exactly. Well, and this is I think this is another whole topic in of itself about that diversity. Because I made a comment in I think it was a previous live, or maybe it was a video, and somebody caught on to it. But I said about diversity for the sake of diversity may not be the best idea. Diversity on a small farm or a homestead is good, but you look at a natural system, you have diversity to a point, and then you tend to the ecological spaces tend to be filled by multiple members of that. So as opposed to just having one of these and two of these and a couple of these, you tend to have certain things be more prevalent, whether they're plants, animals, whatever. And I think that's like a homestead is an ecosystem, whether people want to label it that or not, because you're basically growing things to feed yourself. And unless you're doing it indoors completely, you're kind of at the will of the other parts of the environment, the elements and the weather and that sort of thing. So yeah, it just goes down that line of like you say with dogs, there's so many different breeds of dogs now, and there's nothing wrong with that because there's a lot more information on how to manipulate genetic expression through breeding. But then I'm not going to apply this to dogs, but when you apply it to cattle or chickens or whatever, if they don't have the production qualities, i.e., they don't produce eggs and meat and the things that they've done for a long time. Where am I trying to go with this? On a homestead, you want the animals and the plants that are going to do that. It's like you want the vegetables that want to grow and want to be weedy because they're going to produce more. You want the chickens that are going to forage and maybe hatch their own eggs and that sort of stuff, because that's probably going to be easier at that scale. You want the cow that's going to go out and forage and be a good converter of that. And, that's really high level stuff, but that's where it does go back to the breed or the land race or whatever that's adapted for that, and picking those. And then once you find those, especially if they're rare, then that's why they're worth figuring out how to make it work, I guess. I'm going to leave it at that because this is, and that's livestock tend to not have that to the same degree because they tend to be eaten.
Yeah.
To put it quite bluntly, or otherwise culled from the gene pool. But yeah. Yep. No, exactly. I think that goes for absolutely every animal. Is some of them are amazing, and some of them just don't have good attitudes. No matter.
And some of them can be both at the same time.
Yes, that is true too. We definitely have had
a few of those.
We've had, yeah. You get the odd one where you can't wait until they go to the butcher, and you get some where it's just like that's a really hard decision because the only reason you're letting them go is because you've got tons of babies from them or whatever. You know, a rooster that he's been fantastic, but he's got like
you don't need him anymore.
Hundreds of babies from him. Yeah. Yep. No, it's very true. That's a whole nother thing. These sort of self-cloning plants and animals, which is another interesting topic. But I'm not going to get into that tonight because I think it's a Tuesday. I think we're going to leave it there.
I'm dwindling. I'm not saying much.
Well, it's been a good conversation, and it's some things I think we'll probably touch on in the future. It's just, sometimes it's hard to touch on them in a 10-minute video and really do it justice. But or even a 2-hour live and really do it justice, because there's a lot of moving parts and information.
Yeah. But have a great night, everybody. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us and sticking with us. Yes.
Always lots of
I hope everybody gets through the rest of June amazingly.
And everybody gets their gardens
done. We're hoping to be able to do a video and document that by next weekend or this weekend, whatever.
Adding our new garden area.
Hopefully we will have the potatoes planted, because that is almost kind of the final item that's got to really get in there. Well, no, I say that. There's tomatoes. There's everything. There's lots. Oh my gosh. Anyways, let's see if we make it to the end of June.
Yes, and we'll catch up with everybody later. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Thanks so much.